What's good, guys? So normally Joe and I have a guest on, and what we've been doing is trying to share stories of healing because we want people to know that
Yeah.
there's hope and that, if you have a chronic illness, if you have chronic Lyme, that it is not a death sentence, that you're not stuck
Yeah.
with that.
Mm.
And we realized that we really haven't taken the time to share our stories. And they're obviously near and dear to our hearts because we've lived them.
Yeah.
So this week we're going to do Joe's story. Next week we're going to do mine. So
Yeah.
we're going to take some time out and ask some really specific questions and kind of get into some of the dark days and some of the bright days and just what Joe did
Yeah.
and what his healing journey looked like. So we're super excited. For you guys
Yeah.
that don't know, Joe wrote a book on his healing journey that you can get on Amazon. We'll put the link down in the
Yeah.
description. Definitely a great read if you're walking through. It's a great chronicle of his story. But we're excited, man.
Yeah.
So I guess from the beginning, man, like how did your story start? You had Lyme disease. I'm guessing that's kind of how we met. But
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
very beginning, what happened? How did this all come
Yeah.
to be? How was your life changed by chronic illness?
Yeah, man. This is gonna be a crazy story, and I appreciate you guys for joining. I'm gonna go in as much detail as I possibly can and not try to make this as long as possible. But we're going through 20 years here, guys. So my journey started back in the end of 2004. I'll go into detail like when I got bit by ticks, but the first thing that happened, this is kind of where my book started, was the first time I had some crazy symptoms, as we know them now as like depersonalization, derealization, and vision problems. The
Were
first
those
time
some of the first, were those your first symptoms that you started to have?
I think, well, kind of, but not really. Like, I just ignored all these other symptoms that were going on until that one hit. But that was when I knew something's not right. So this was back in 2004. I was actually driving to college. I was going into my senior year of college. I was 21 at the time. And on my way to college, man, I just got this bout of like DPDR. And if you guys know what that is, depersonalization, derealization, I'd never experienced it prior to that. I was a normal, healthy person for the most part. I had minor symptoms or whatever. Um, but when I was driving to college, I was like, man, I felt like I was out of body. Like I felt dizzy. I felt tunnel vision. I felt like I was going to pass out at times, all that sort of stuff. And that was the first time that I was like scared about something related to my health, that I was always more of the person that just kind of brushed thing under the rug, didn't really care too much about stuff, dealt with illnesses, viruses, other health problems, and just didn't pay too much attention. But when that happened, I was like, something's wrong. However, I stopped, pulled over to the side of the road, gathered myself, and was like, maybe I blood sugar low, maybe I need to rest, or I didn't know what it was. And I chilled for like 30 minutes or so, and I didn't feel quite right, but I just kept moving. I kept, because that was my life. It was just keep moving forward, like everything's fine. I'm
Let me ask you
21.
a quick question, Joe,
Yeah.
because I'm curious. It's funny that you said, and I'm going to interrupt you a couple times on this
Yeah,
because
no, please do, man.
that was the first thing that happened to me. Is I felt like my blood sugar was low. And I ate terrible at the time. I had a
Yeah.
large sweet tea from McDonald's, and then I
Yeah.
thought that, like I was having blood sugar issues because I ate
Yeah.
terrible. So when you had the DPDR, had you had a panic attack yet,
No.
or was it
No.
the DPDR came and then the anxiety and the panic attacks came?
Yeah, it was the DPDR came first, and then the anxiety and the panic attacks followed. I had no anxiety or no like symptoms of like depression or anything like that. Um, I had just turned 21. I was in party mode. That's actually
Right.
probably part of the reason why I started having symptoms, because I was drinking a lot, as a normal 21-year-old in college does. I wasn't an alcoholic, but I drank quite a bit. Several times a week. Um, yeah, and so yeah, that symptom scared the hell out of me, and
Yeah.
then I pushed through it, and made it to college, and for like a couple months, I started having about 2-3 months. I started having like weird bouts of the DPDR, but other symptoms as well, and I kept moving. I was like, something's not right, but I'm just gonna live. This is gonna pass. I'm 21. Like, I don't have time to think about symptoms that are creeping up. And so I would have heart palpitations, heart issues. I would feel like I was hit by like a Mack truck at times. Like I would be, beaten down with fatigue, and like, have
Dizzy,
like a
lightheaded.
pounding head, yeah, like dizziness, lightheaded. I would, have like migraines and headaches, or um have these crazy things, these crazy symptoms, numbness, tingling, just feeling just, super wiped of energy. And so
Right,
that happened on and off for like, several months. But in the meantime, I was going to class. I was, um, partying with friends on weekends and weekdays sometimes, and
right.
just doing my best. But everything kept progressively getting worse, and the symptoms kept coming and coming, and to the point where towards the end of the semester, going into 2005, is when things really got bad. That's when all the DPDR started and didn't go away at all. That's when anxiety, panic attacks happen more frequently. That's when the severe fatigue and malaise feeling and all the other, like, you know dizziness and vertigo started happening, and the brain fog and all of that started happening. And towards the end of the semester, I like struggled to get through the semester. Um, and so, then I was like, okay, something's wrong. Like, this is where I gotta, go see doctors and stuff like that. And so I went back home for like winter break, saw my doctors, and they didn't know anything. They were like, I have no idea. Maybe this is all in your head. Like, everything's fine. They did blood work. You seem okay. Um, maybe you have a sinus infection. Here's like a week of antibiotics, I think. And then I, although I felt like crap, I was like, okay, this is gonna pass. Everything's fine. I went back down to school in 2005 for my, spring semester. And then that's when it just progressively got worse and worse and worse. And I couldn't go to class anymore. I,
Did
I
you
like
have
literally, yeah,
one day? I think I asked you this a couple days ago. Do you have one day that you can retrace your steps to remember, like, this is the day that my life changed? Like, this was the day that everything kind of came
yeah,
crashing down, whether it started with like, were you getting anxiety and panic attacks at this time,
yeah,
or had not, had you
yeah,
had
yeah. I was already getting anxiety and panic. Yeah.
everything?
Well, there was a couple things. So when I came home um for Thanksgiving break, I had some crazy flu, some fever. I don't know what it was. Um and uh like, I was basically in bed for like several days. Went to the doctor. He gave me again like 5 days worth of, antibiotics. And after the antibiotics, like, I remember feeling like better, just minorly, and I was like, okay, everything's fine. And I went back down, and then after that, I had a panic attack in a movie theater. Like, I was out like
Your
watching.
like your
Yeah,
first.
it was my first one ever. I didn't even know what it was. I just remember feeling like this overwhelming sense of like urgency, like I needed to get the hell out of there, like just like, impending doom. And that was the first time I'd really ever dealt with like panic or anything like that. And then it was just like, it would just kind of cascade in waves of anxiety and panic attacks that happened for months in a row, to the point where,
Did you get to the point where it was like a 24/7 panic where you felt just
yeah,
on
yeah.
the edge all the time? Yeah.
Yeah, there was several months like that. And that's when
That's
all of my symptoms were just boom in my face. You know, the DPDR, like, then it was like digestive issues, then it was like fatigue, and it was just like, joint pain happened. And
like
like,
dying, basically.
yeah, I was basically dying. I felt like I was,
Yeah.
and I couldn't go to school. I couldn't do anything. I laid in bed. Um, I tried to even eat. I hardly could eat at that time. Sorry. And then this is when I started seeing a bunch of doctors down in South Carolina where I was living. No one knew anything that was wrong with me. I was getting passed from doctor to doctor to doctor.
Yep.
You know, Eventually, I went home again to go, because I was like, doctors don't know anything down here. I went back up to Pennsylvania, and I saw a neurologist that was like, yo, something's wrong with you. I don't know what it is. I think you may have MS. Let's do the tests, because like, I was having all sorts of, balance issues, vertigo. I was having like the numbness and tingling in my hands and feet.
Was your
Um,
memory? Were you struggling with your memory?
yeah, I was no, yeah, yeah. and the having vision issues and all that stuff. She did all the tests, and she's like, dude, something's not right with you. I know that. I think you have MS. Let's do the test. She's like, I'm gonna run some labs for Lyme disease, and I had already had several tests done that came back negative. But when she did it, I actually got a positive test, and she was like, okay, well, this is, I think, what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So I can't help treat you, so good luck. I'm not a Lyme disease specialist. I'm a neurologist.
This is what you
So
have. Yeah.
yeah. So eventually I saw a Lyme specialist. I got a referral, and that was just the beginning, as you know,
Yeah.
guys, if you're watching this and you have Lyme disease, that's like, I thought it was the end. I was like, woohoo, like, I
Yeah,
know what's
I'm
wrong
gonna
with
get
me.
everything I need. So I want to
Yeah.
rewind back really quick. Do you recall a tick bite and all that stuff,
Yeah.
or
So I had several tick bites in my life, especially when I was younger. But the weird thing is that I had one about 6 months prior to symptoms starting.
did you
I
get
was in.
did you get the tick bite and get like a flu like
No,
thing,
no, not after it. I was fine.
bullseye or anything?
No, no. So I had a tick bite. I actually, um, it was the semester prior. It was like maybe May of 2024. I got bit by a tick, and I found it on me, and it kind of freaked me out. But I just thought nothing of it and was fine. So that's kind of when started thinking maybe that's when I got it. But I really have no idea, because been bit by so many ticks. And guys, if you're listening to this, you're gonna understand that it really doesn't matter too. Also, all this stuff,
Right.
we're gonna dive into that here in a little bit. But it's important to know that, like, yeah, I did have an actual Lyme diagnosis and all that sort of stuff. And um I did go and see a Lyme specialist, or several, over the course of several years. But like, at first I thought, this is my answer. I'm going to do some antibiotics for a month or two, and I'll be fine. I'll be back at school.
Right.
And that never happened. It maybe helped a little bit, and I thought, like, okay, well, maybe I just need to try a different antibiotic, or maybe I need to try this combination, or whatever. And that turned into months, turned into years, turned into alternative treatments, turned into
Right. Right.
all of this stuff. And I'm going to breeze through this, because this is not what matters, guys. If you're dealing with Lyme disease or chronic illness, this story. You go and you see all of the doctors, spend all the money. I went from sick to bedridden to just sick, and I never really got better. I just stayed sick, but to varying degrees. Sometimes it was like bedridden sick, like I can't leave bed for months. Sometimes I was sick and able to, like, play video games, but like that was like my level of, like, being okay. It was like being able to get on the internet and play video games and watch movies. But I never was able to go back to school. I was never able to work. And I kept looking for these treatments out there, for like all of these things to help me heal. I would have my mom help out with, like, maybe there's a doctor that knows how to heal, or maybe there's a new treatment out there. And like, I would read when I could, like when I actually could read, um, things and research. And then we met along with several other, like, Lyme people on, like,
Yeah.
the Lyme groups and, like, the Facebook groups. And then I
And
had
that
this
was,
little.
let me ask you, because I
Yeah,
think there's a lot of
yeah,
in the beginning, because now we encourage people not, like, in the beginning when you found your people in the Lyme group, like that
yeah,
felt like that was
yeah.
everything, right? And
Yeah, it was like community. It was like, yo, I'm
yeah,
not alone in this. You know what I mean? I'm not alone in this suffering. Other people are struggling and suffering. Cause, like, for a while, I didn't talk to anyone, man. Like, I was like, I couldn't even, like, tell if anyone else was, like, sick, really. Like, I didn't have friends. I stayed in bed, and like, I didn't know any other Lyme people or chronically ill people. I was
yeah,
21, 22. Like, my friends were out partying, living life, and I'm stuck in bed. And eventually I did find, like, the community, and it was great for a little while. But that
yeah.
community was
It keeps you. Yeah,
partly what kept me sick. And through all of the treatments and through all of the trying different things, all I saw was people get sick. People come and stay sick and never get better, and never get better at all. And there was a shift for me in there. This is a crazy story, but this is how I got introduced to the world of mind body healing.
well,
And
before we get there, just
Yeah.
so people can, and maybe there's
Yeah.
someone newly been diagnosed. You didn't just see one Lyme doctor, right? You
No,
saw
no,
multiple,
man. I saw.
right? And it's we both
Yeah.
had thick lines. You
Yeah.
took gobs of antibiotics. You
Yeah.
went the conventional route and didn't see, like, it didn't get you in remission, right?
Nah, nah. I
And
did. I did
you did
IBM, and
you saw multiple Lyme doctors.
yeah, I saw some of the best in the country. I traveled to
You
all
see
over.
Raxton? Who'd you
Yeah,
see?
he was. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, he was my doctor before I got well. He was the one in New York, but I saw several in Pennsylvania as well. And I think that a lot of them meant well. And I even think like he, I don't know if we're allowed to use his name or whatever, but I think he was a good dude and like wanted to help people heal. And um, and this is not to slander them, but like, no one knows what they're doing. No one knew anything about Lyme disease, and it's just giving people a ton of antibiotics and treatments and just see what if anything works you know but ultimately it just never really helped me. And I
Yeah.
remember, so there was a couple shifts, like you know I was sick, I was fed up, I was tired of being sick and tired. Basically, I'd hit this point of like low rock bottom, where I was just like, man, I'm like now in my mid 20s, am I going to be ever going to be well? And that was like a dark place. It was lots of depression, lots of, you know,
Were you by yourself doing this, or like where
yeah,
were you in the midst of
yeah,
all?
I was living at home with my mom, but yeah, I was basically by myself kind
You
of
couldn't
dealing with
work.
this. I had my,
You
what?
could. You were debilitated. You couldn't do
Yeah,
anything.
I couldn't do anything really. I couldn't do anything at all. And yeah, it was dark. It was a dark place, and I'd hit rock bottom multiple times, but like there was a lot of like, within there I was like, man, I don't like fighting for my life to just try to heal and get better, and not even know how long I was gonna make it. You know what I mean, type of deal. And then also, if I was gonna live like this, like how long was I gonna be sick? Am I just gonna be live exist like this for however many years?
Yeah.
You know, but there was a shift. There was a shift there about 3-4 years into my journey of dealing with Lyme disease. And a lot of people are going to hear this and be like, oh, I know what you're talking about now. But back then, the world of like mind body healing was taboo. It was like a spiritual woo woo
Oh
nonsense.
yeah.
And honestly, that's kind of where I began. I watched the Secret, the movie The Secret. Everyone knows it now. It's all the law of attraction and everything like that. And that was the first time I was like, maybe there's things that I don't know about, that maybe I'm contributing to keeping myself sick, and maybe even just like my life leading up to this point, of being fearful, of stressing, of worrying, was leading me to become chronically ill. And so, yeah, like watching that movie didn't make any like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm better now, but it made me question things, and it made me actually ask myself, where am I contributing to keeping myself sick? And that's where there was started to be a shift. I started getting more into this world of like whatever it is, law of attraction, like maybe there's something there. But then I started reading stories of people like Joe Dispenza's in that movie, and I heard his story about healing. And then I heard like other stories about people of healing from like different chronic illnesses. I was like, man, maybe there's something to this. Maybe there is something to this. It never really clicked for me right away, but when I thought about it, I was like, there's got to be something to this. So I started really trying to shift my mindset and doing the practices around, you know, um, law of attraction and like
Right.
like visualization and these other things. And I felt like I was throwing
Visualizing,
darts at something that I didn't know. Yeah.
were
What?
you trying to visualize yourself being healthy, or like,
Yeah.
or,
Yeah. I would like back then I would be like I would try to visualize myself being healthy, or I would, you know, um, just think of myself as healing and all of this. And it was hard because I was so sick and I didn't know what I was doing. So I kept like failing at this. So um I struggled with it. Occasionally I would dive into it, but I was never consistent with it as well. That was part of it. Like I was
right,
doing some of these practices, but then I would fall back into going on forums, talking to my Lyme friends, you know,
your Lyme,
yeah, exactly. Searching my symptoms, trying to
right?
find treatments. And it was like these two things were coexisting, and I was like, okay, something's got to give here. Eventually, after another round of like heavy, expensive treatments and failed treatments, I was like, I'm so tired of this. I'm so tired of this, of being sick, of trying these things and not working. And there was a shift that I had about, um, 4 or 5 years in my journey, and it was this realization that there was no one going to fix me. There was no healer. There was no doctor.
Maybe.
Yeah, there was no one coming to save me. And it was a dark place, but it was also in some ways empowering because at that point I realized, and Josh says this, and he'll probably say it in his journey: get busy living or get busy dying. And it wasn't that, it was for me. It was like, all right, if I'm gonna be stuck like this, I'm not going down like this. I'm not
Right.
this laying in bed is not happening anymore.
Ain't going out
And
like
I became, huh?
ain't going out like a punk.
Yeah, I'm not. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to start living as though I'm healing. And I made all of these shifts. I got off of the forums. I got out of searching about chronic illness. I let go of the labels. I stopped talking about myself as a sick person. I started really diving into more consistency with the healing work that was like the woo woo stuff, like
You started
meditation.
working part time too, right? That's when you
Yeah,
started
yeah.
seeing this? Yeah.
And it was a multifaceted thing. Like I would come home and I would I would do like visualization and EFT tapping and like rewiring my brain, and I started taking action again in life. This is where like I was just like, dude, I can't do this anymore. Let me
Yeah.
just start living as best I could. And I failed a lot. I would try, and my symptoms would be so bad, and I would be like, okay, but this is what I got to do. My symptoms, I got to take them with me. I started like reading books on practices of like acceptance and surrender. And this is what really helped me, was like learning to not control so much, learning to just do my best, and then let go. And ultimately, like through taking action again in life, through you know trying to create a life again, and doing these practices, I eventually heal myself. Like I said, I started working part-time delivering pizzas like 2 nights a week, and I was like, okay, I can do that. I took a class at a local community college while delivering pizzas. I was like, I can do that. Okay, cool. And as I was doing all of these practices, and getting back and re-engaging in life, I started showing my body that I was capable of more. And then my body sort of rewarded me with like, yo, you're capable of doing more. I'm going to show you. So then it was like 2 classes at a community college, and then like upping up my work schedule, and then doing these things. And then I started working out, and I started skateboarding a little bit. And then a year later, I'm like back to living a pretty full life. And this is when I decided to go back to college, like to full time. And
Yeah.
I went
That's
back to,
re-enrolled in Coastal.
yeah, re-enrolled back in Coastal. And at the time, I was actually fairly well for the most part. I still dealt with some symptoms. Some of the DPDR was there at times, you know, but a lot of the symptoms, especially the physical stuff and the fatigue, were diminished.
Right. So
And I was like,
let me ask you a question, Joe,
yeah,
because I think that this is something
yeah,
that a lot of people will ask. So you basically just meditated your way to health. Now I know that that's not the answer,
yeah, yeah,
but from your understanding and doing all this, because you did more stuff, obviously your diet was super clean.
yeah, yeah,
You're starting to move your body again. From a scientific perspective, maybe you can answer this, and if not, like it's cool.
yeah.
But like, what shifts did you make, and how does this? I mean, you didn't just think your way out of Lyme disease, or did
No, 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 no. So back then, I had no idea what I was doing. Now I know what I was doing was I was calming and regulating my nervous system, getting myself out of fight or flight, showing my body safety through action, through kind of like exposure and response prevention therapy, which we'll talk more on another video, which is like a psychologist, therapist therapy perspective. And doing a lot of other things like acceptance and commitment therapy that I had learned about. But while I was doing that, what I was doing was I was showing my body safety through multiple means, and I was getting my body back into balance. and getting it back into that state of homeostasis. And so then my body was rewarding me with better health. Like I
Right.
was less dealing with anxiety and depression because now my nervous system is calm, and my gut was healthy because I was eating an anti-inflammatory diet and prioritizing that stuff. And I felt better because I was back moving my body and exercising a little bit. And I was getting back, I had a treadmill down in my basement that I would walk on, and I would do push-ups and like dumbbells and stuff like that I would work out. um
So let me
and
let me
so yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just have some
No,
important questions going through this
yeah,
because I think that a lot of people are going to want to know. So you obviously started getting your life back to where you'll finish the rest. I know
yeah,
what happened when you went to college and
yeah,
stuff, but so you wrote a book on all this,
yeah,
and I know the science behind it. I'm asking you because I want them to
yeah,
know. Like what happens to your body? So obviously, it's
yeah,
not like, you meditated, did EFT
yeah,
tapping, ate a healthy diet, and things shifted. Like, what happens with your nervous system? Like,
yeah,
do you believe? I mean, I know what I believe, and
yeah,
it's a facetious question because I know the answer. But do you believe by doing these practices and that calming your nervous system that anybody struggling with a chronic illness can get a large
yeah.
portion of their life back?
Yeah, absolutely.
How
And
so?
I'm no different. So what happens, and this is what I know now, but I kind of really didn't know back then. So a lot of the time when I was sick and prior to being sick, I was constantly living in this state of stress, fear, dysregulation, and my body was constantly dumping cortisol, adrenaline, and all of the inflammatory hormones in my body, and weakening my immune response and my body's ability to detox and all of this stuff. And it,
Digestion.
yeah, and when I got sick, it just got worse because now I'm more in the fight or flight fear response, focused on my symptoms and all of that. And what people don't realize is when that happens, man, your digestion shuts off, your nervous system's now in that heightened state, and it's not focused on you know fighting off infections and all these other things. It's focused on keeping you safe, and keeping you safe is dumping cortisol, adrenaline, making you hypervigilant, all of that. And this is where a lot of people feel like anxiety, depression, all of these other things happen. And when I started doing these healing practices, I didn't know what I was doing, but basically what I was doing was calming my nervous system. I was stopping dumping cortisol. I was stopping dumping adrenaline. I was turning off the all the inflammatory markers in my body and responses in my body, and starting to produce anti-inflammatory compounds with my diet, with movement, with exercise, with getting my mindset right, and all of that. And that's how I healed. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew it worked, and I started feeling better. Yes, it was up and down too. This is the one thing that I will say. I on that journey when I was healing, I went through a lot of dark periods as well, through the ups and downs and the waves and stuff like that. But where I shifted is when the down periods came. I didn't get, oh no, not again, woe is me. I
Yeah.
really developed this mindset of, it is what it is. And we talk about it all the time. This too shall pass. This is
All
not going to
right.
be like this. I'm going to get back on track. Developing that mindset of resilience, of empowerment. And when I started getting back on track and getting back, like I said, finally went back to get my degree while I was still dealing with some symptoms. And I was working full time, almost full time, like 30 hours a week, and going to school full time. And all of these things, they all worked hand in hand. And I healed, and I didn't even realize I was healing. Like I was just doing things,
Right.
bringing my symptoms with me, showing safety to my body, and living life, finding joy again while symptoms were there, re engaging with life again while symptoms were there. And then I, I just gradually healed over the course of a couple years, and then I again I went back to got my degree, started working again, and this is where we can kind of pick it back up, is So I healed. Like I basically got into remission or whatever you think of it. Like I
So,
didn't recognize myself as having a chronic illness anymore. It wasn't on my mind ever again. Like for a while it was just in the background. It was like this is what I dealt with. But
yeah.
now I'm back to living, you know? Um
So, this is going to be kind of a complex question, but
yeah,
I know that as you healed, we knew each other pretty well. Like we were
yeah,
online buddies, through
definitely.
Lyme and whatnot. We played Xbox together when we were really sick, and I kind of had some bitterness towards you because I
Yeah,
got to
yeah,
see you getting back to your life, and I'm still,
yeah,
sitting here feeling like I'm dying. And it's crazy how things connect, when they're supposed to, and align when the
yeah.
time is. But do you feel like a large majority, or maybe all the people dealing with a chronic illness, are in that state of dysregulation because of unchecked fight or flight response? Like, because I know a lot of people say, "Oh, well, I'm not in constant panic." Like, I believe that you can still be in that heightened state
Yeah.
subconsciously, not even realize.
Yeah.
And we know, and science shows it, that like if your nervous system's completely fried, your immune system's not going to work,
Yeah.
digestion's going to be off. I believe, and guys, this isn't medical advice, nothing here is medical advice, that a lot of people that develop POTS is a
Yeah.
result of your
Yeah,
nervous
I
system
had that as well. It is.
completely shot. So the question is, as you begin to heal, do you believe that a lot of people that dealing with this, like your story is unique, or do you think that everybody that's dealing with this would
Yeah,
be?
everyone that my story is not unique at all. Everyone has that sort of feeling like I'm unique, and I can't heal because of this X, Y, and Z, and my brain has this, or this medication damaged me, and none of that is true.
26
It's
mold exposures.
yeah,
I want to.
yeah,
One of the things that Joe didn't touch on, I'm sure that he went down this, is as
yeah,
Lyme patients, guys. When the Lyme doctor can't figure it out, then you go to the integrative doctor, and
yeah.
you're looking for heavy metals, and you're looking for mold. And I'm not saying that
I
there's
did
not
all that. Yeah,
exposures, but yeah, we guys, it's a path that we all end up going. So the Lyme doctor can't fix you, so you go to the integrative doctor, and he runs all these specialty labs, and these markers are high, and that markers are
yeah,
high. You're $8,000 in debt to labs. So now you're detoxing heavy metals, and you're taking all these supplements that you're buying from them because naturally they're making a profit.
mhm,
And you're doing all these different treatments when in all reality, if you were to address your nervous system first and then evaluate where you're at, you'd save yourself a lot of money and you'd heal a lot quicker. Do you agree with
yeah.
that?
Exactly. Yeah. So I went down all those paths, and I think for a lot of people, if you're listening to this, don't go down those paths. You know what I mean? Because it's a rabbit hole that leads to nowhere, except for you being financially stripped of money and probably sicker and more confused than ever.
Yeah.
Obviously, talk to your doctors, do what feels right for you. But if you're chasing that thing, that root cause that is X, Y, or Z, it ultimately just leads nowhere and leads you to be more sick, really. And this is what we see, and this is what I've seen with everyone. And this is the stories that I read of people healing. None of them were seeing an integrative medicine doctor and doing all these crazy treatments. What they were doing were essentially calming and regulating their nervous system through action,
Right.
through doing some of the right things for their body, through lifestyle choices and habits, and not letting their illness control their lives anymore. And that's ultimately what helped me heal. And that's the most important thing, guys. If you need all of the science, it's there behind this type of healing. And we dive into it on this channel, and we'll do more on that. But for the sake of that, this story is just to give you the real truth about where I was, and all of this stuff. And let me just tell you guys, like, my story goes up and down over the next 15 years as well. You know where obviously I went and got healthy. Now I'm living life. The illness is in the background. It's not a thing anymore. I'm you know
Yeah.
working 40, 50 hours a week. I'm a graphic designer, and I'm an art director. I'm drinking on weekends, which I don't recommend, because you'll hear what this story leads to.
Yeah.
I'm back into life. I fell away from the practices that helped me heal. You know what I mean? Ultimately, I was back into partying on the weekends, back into stressful behaviors. But because I was healthier, my body can handle it for
Yeah.
a certain amount of time. And then So I relapsed twice, guys. You know, I don't really talk about this. So in 2015, after years of drinking, stress, lifestyle habits, relationship stress, illnesses, other viruses, all of that, I relapsed in 2015. All of the symptoms came back, all of them, like, and then some, like terrible vertigo, DPDR back at a 10. Like at this point, I was trying to work through it, and you know,
What brought it
I was
back? It was a breakup, right, or some
It
stressful
was well,
relationship?
part of it was a breakup, a stressful breakup. Part of it was just me putting so much stress on myself and not doing the right things that helped me heal in the past.
Right,
It was just a combination of things, but I think it was just stress, just constant low level stress for like a year or two. Like I just kind of was in it and not doing anything right for my body. It was all just negative shit, and then it yeah led to that relapse. And again, I was really sick again, really sick. And like at that point, I was 30 something, and I had to work. This was like a blessing in disguise. I couldn't go back and live with my mom. I was like, I'm not doing that. So like I
right,
stayed working while I was struggling. um and this was a blessing, guys, because this time around being sick, it taught me the resilience of the human body and how capable I was even when I was not at my best or couldn't even really like care for myself that well. My body was capable of doing some things. Like I worked as a graphic designer, art director, and I was still able of doing a good job while I was struggling, like severely struggling. Yeah, like I'd be sitting there with terrible vertigo or DPDR, or like barely being able to lift my head off the desk and still able to work.
right.
And this showed me a lot about the body's ability to do things even under a lot of terrible circumstances. And this was another thing that really helped me um, develop that resilient mindset as I was trying to regain my health. And I went back down like all the terrible rabbit holes of doctors and things like that when I relapsed. And again, it really was none of that. um I'm just going to breeze through the next couple of years, because it was trying to see doctors, it was trying to take medicine again, and it was eventually all of that failing. And then I got back. I remember I had this again epiphany. It was like maybe in like 2016, end of 2016 at some point. I was like, yo, what am I doing? I've healed before. I know how to heal. I got back into practices that helped me. I remember I would, before every morning going into work, I would do my heart brain coherence meditations. I didn't know what they were worded in that back then. I was doing these meditations that were just calming and regulating my nervous system. And then I was like going back out on walks every day. And then I was, re-engaging a little bit back into life. Like, okay, let me go back to the gym. I remember I started going back to the gym and exercising a little bit. Um, I really took care of my diet again. And then I was just patience. I developed this patience and this resilient mindset. But there was this shift where I was like, I'm stagnant. I'm not doing anything in life. You know, this is not helpful. And so I was working at my job, which was good because like I could work and I had a caring and understanding boss, but I was also staying stagnant in that life. And this goes into the lens of what we try to get people to do, is to keep moving forward in life. And I knew I needed to like shake something up. Like I was just like I gotta change something in my life. So I took a new job, and it like threw me into this new environment where now I was not in the comfort zone of my my old job, where I was able to just use that as a crutch while I felt like shit. I was like, I had to learn new things. And this was a, like, neuroplasticity in itself. It was like, you're in a new environment, you're not going to be able to sit there and think about your illness. You're not going to use that. You're going to have to focus on something else. And that, along with the other practices, kind of led to newfound health and well-being and feelings better. And like I said, this was up and down for a while, you know but around 2017, 2018, again, my health was like improving a lot. I was getting like better and better. I was getting back into hobbies. This is the other thing that I started doing. I got back into like racing my car and skateboarding and all this stuff that brought me joy along with these practices. And I'm like, dude, how the hell am I healing myself again? As all these people are staying sick, I've like healed, relapsed, healed again. And then this is when I started writing that book. It's titled It's All in My Head. And I was like, I've learned how to heal myself like again multiple times. I've got to do something. So I wrote this book, and it took me about 2 or 3 years to write, from like 2018 to 2020. I think published it in 2021. And at this point, I was fairly well. Again, I got back to like living normal life. I was racing, I was traveling, I was, skating, I was living a normal life. My work was a breeze again. It was not hard. It wasn't you know, anything like that. And COVID comes around, all this stuff. We're all locked inside, back
Yeah.
to unhealthy habits. Drinking every weekend. Staying in stress. Relationship struggles. Not doing anything good for my body. And then I got COVID in 2022. Yeah, 2022, and that's when again, boom, everything crashed. And the crazy thing is, at the time, um, I knew that what I was doing, I was meant to help other people. Like, because I wrote my book, I was like, okay, this is how I'm going to start helping people. And then I started getting my master's in nutrition during the pandemic, online as I was working. And that was part of what honestly led me to relapse, because I was like working like 40, 50 hours a week and then doing a full-time master's program online. And it was good because like I learned some new things about nutrition, and I wanted to help people, and this was like my plan and my escape out of being an art director and helping people. And then I relapsed, and then this is where me and you connected, Josh, and we started the Healing Dudes. Like, but it was rough. Again, it was like
Yeah, it was real tough.
back the beginning of like the first 6 months after my relapse. Again, I couldn't work. I was, DPDR at a 10, anxiety, depression, nonstop, you know, feeling like I was plugged into a socket, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, my gut was a wreck. It was just nonstop hell for many, many months. And, it was a blessing in disguise in a way, which is crazy to even think about. But like,
Yeah.
it was the final push that I needed to like actually start doing the right things again, but do them for good. And not only that, it was like, when I moved down to Florida, we started sharing our healing journey, and we started helping one another heal, which was great. The community that me and you had with ourselves.
Right.
But then we started the Healing Dudes and our healing boot camps back then, and the all these things, and it was our way of showing people, healing, and the ups and downs of healing, but doing it in a way, the same exact way that like I had healed in the past, you know, just a little bit different. There's a lot more science now. Now everyone knows everything about, neuroplasticity, the polyvagal theory, mind body healing, the different catch terms like brain retraining and, nervous system work and all of that. And this is basically everything that I did, but I did it in a less complicated way.
Right.
Um, and so that's kind of, what ultimately happened is like coming back to the same practices and principles that helped me heal in the past, and doing it again and again, and just a repeatable action with consistency, and not looking for these outside sources to fix me. Because, when I relapsed this time again, I couldn't even take supplements. My
Yeah.
my everything, my body rejected everything. So it was like, you're just going to learn how to heal your nervous system completely, and your body's going to heal you. And that's what I came back to. You know there was an epiphany, and I want to talk about this on this journey. Is when I was sick, about 3 or 4 months into, my latest relapse. This was in the, winter spring of 2022.
Yeah.
um, and I'm sitting there going to see these doctors again and trying all these treatments again, and everything just made me feel worse, like to the point where I couldn't even get out of bed. There was this message that just came to me. It was just like, yo, That type of healing doesn't work anymore. That's a fear energy and a fear vibration. You are trying to kill things in your body right now. That is not signaling safety to your body. That is telling your body something's wrong. You need to get rid of it, blah, blah, blah. And it was throwing me more into nervous system dysregulation. That sounds woo woo spiritual to you. Fine. I mean, I get down with that a little bit. I do feel like there is, some divine things that have happened on this journey. And, I can go into that a little bit. But after that, I stopped trying to figure it out with medicine, with supplements. And I just, again, I felt called to this nervous system work.
Yeah.
A random friend, suggested it again. He was like, "Hey, have you heard of like brain retraining stuff?" And I'm like, "No, what is that?" And I dove into it. I'm like, "This is exactly what I did to heal, like, a decade prior." Now there's like programs and stuff like that. And and then I saw them and I was like, "Yo, this is too complicated. Like, you don't need to do all this to heal." And that's when, we started what we're doing. And
Right.
so yeah.
So
So
I
the
have
last
questions for
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
So I want to get there because we're about 45 minutes in and just want to be able to
Yeah,
ask. So I think there's a moral to the
yeah,
story here, and it's stay consistent with the work.
yeah,
Even, you know, once you become chronically sick, guys, you're always going to be. I believe that you can achieve optimal health, but you can always teeter the scales.
yeah,
And if you live a life that's toxic, if you're not eating healthy, if you're drinking, if you're eating the cheesecake, there's a lot of people out there that'll tell you that you can retrain your brain to eat Snickers and ice cream. And no, we don't believe that. You got to eat
yeah,
real food, the food that we are intended. And Joe is on the woo woo side, and that's fine. Like I think there's a lot of it. Like I do have a deep faith, but I believe the science behind everything that we
yeah,
talk about is absolutely astounding. And even from a faith perspective, there's a lot of stuff that has been talking about hundreds of years
yeah,
ago that
yeah,
is relevant to what we do today. And one, it's you got to put nutritious food in your body. Like the
yeah,
moment you start feeling better and you start drinking alcohol, or oh, maybe I'll have a cheese steak today, or let me have some pizza. Guys, we're eating food that we weren't eating 200 years ago.
yeah,
All these new created foods instead of
yeah.
stuff that
Filled
comes from,
with chemicals.
yeah,
Yeah,
filled with chemicals. There's no nutritional value to it whatsoever, and that's what our body needs to stay intact. So there's that. Plus, we get so caught up in society that we sit in these a lot, that
yeah,
we sit in these chairs, and now society is behind the computer desk, and you're sitting there for 8 hours a day typing
yeah,
away. Your body needs to move, and these are a lot of the reasons that Joe hit. Stress is another one.
yeah.
This is where he talks about acceptance. You got to accept some things in life that you can't change, and you change what you're able to, and
Which are able, yeah,
to know the difference between. But the last part of this is as you're venturing on this journey, like nervous system work is very much like brushing your teeth and taking a shower.
yeah,
It should become a part of self-care. Like if you feel like your body is getting stressed or overloaded, or say you get a virus, and you react with fear, understanding how to accept certain things and not allow
yeah,
your nervous system to kick off and kick into fight or flight, because fight or flight isn't necessarily needed like it was needed five,
yeah,
600, 700 years ago. Like we're not in the
yeah,
wild west, we're not in the jungle fighting bears. Like we live in a modern society where like we don't
yeah,
really need that response, but it still triggers. And once it triggers, we can get caught in that loop and stay in that realm of thinking. And I think what Joe showed in his story is if you don't maintain the mental hygiene that's required, just like brushing
yeah,
your teeth, you can easily fall into where all the alarm systems start going off in your body.
yeah,
The cortisol, adrenaline's dumping again. Your
yeah,
digestion is not functioning the way it should. Your heart isn't. It's out of rhythm. You might be getting
yeah,
palpitations. You might
yeah,
be having tachycardia. Your blood pressure is all over the place, and that is because subconsciously or consciously you're in a perpetual state of fight or
yeah,
flight. And that's what we want you guys to understand, is that regardless of what your label is, whether you have long COVID, chronic fatigue syndrome, Lyme disease, whatever the flavor, mold, heavy metals,
yeah,
whatever, there's that state of hypervigilance that we get in once we get sick. And a lot of people stay stuck in that. And
yeah,
what this does is it helps break that cycle, helps
yeah,
calm your body down to where we're not dumping cortisol and adrenaline constantly.
yeah,
We're able to calm the nervous system down. Then the immune system, the
yeah,
intelligent system that's inside of your body that was designed to fight infection, begins to
yeah,
do its job. It puts things at bay. And then next thing you know, you're beginning to live your life. what we've adapted in modern society, and I'm not saying that all medications are bad. I believe that there is a place for some antibiotics and stuff like that. But,
Yep.
the overuse of antibiotics is the reason why we have superbugs like MRSA and all these other
Yep.
things that are coming to be. Is we don't always have to throw a pill at something. We don't, and again, not medical advice, just
Yeah.
do your research, wake up a little bit. You don't always have to throw a pill at something.
Yeah.
The immune system and your body is the greatest healing machine and the greatest medicine that you have
Yeah.
possession. And it's understanding that by calming the nervous system, that getting into a state of rest and digest, that your body is capable of healing and getting back to a state of being able to function optimally. It's
Yeah.
when like Joe says, you start partying again, you go through bad breakups, and you're not taking care of the hygiene, you're not
Yeah.
doing
It's like
right.
the mental
Yeah,
hygiene too
you
is
can
key.
go down, the rabbit hole and end up. And Joe's story, I'm sure when Joe was going through it, he thinks it's unique, just as I thought my story was unique, and I
Yeah.
thought that was. And when we get away from that and we believe that healing is possible, and then we begin to pursue it, people get better, guys. And it's not woo woo. Like, this is the crazy thing, is I
Yeah.
think that the reason that woo woo label is attached to it is because there's no real money to it. Like, if any of you
Yeah.
guys
Exactly.
we get out there and heal. Joe didn't use a program the first time. Like, I tried 2 programs and they were too complex for me. It was when I
Yeah.
started doing the work myself. But here's the thing. Like, the principles are all things that we've been taught throughout history to do.
Yeah.
Like, I use this example all the time. When you go to a cardiologist back in the day, before he's giving you beta blockers, before he's giving you, medications for your blood pressure and stuff, he would ask you, what's your diet like?
Yep.
What's your exercise regime, and what's your stress? And those are the three
Yeah.
major things that cause our health to really go into decline. And I think
Yeah.
that that's the reason. So there's a lot of people that get bit by a tick and they get Lyme disease, but they're not symptomatic. They're not
Yeah.
symptomatic like Joe and I were. And I believe that all those things are varying factors. I don't think it's a big
Yeah.
genetics thing or anything like that. I believe that different people, some people eat like garbage, some people have higher levels of stress, and it's a cup. And the more we fill that cup, once it starts overflowing, the
Yeah.
body's just like,
Exactly.
the alarm systems are going
Yep.
off, and I'm not shutting down because I don't feel well. And that's all this hygiene is, guys, is what we talk about. We say do the work often, but it's not. It's just like, if you don't brush your teeth, they're going to get yellow and fall out. If you don't take a
Yeah.
shower, you're going to stink and you're going to get bacteria all over your body. Guys, it's hygiene, and you have to maintain it throughout the rest of your life. So I
Yeah.
think with Joe sharing his story, like, what we want you guys to know as the healing dudes is we've been in it. We've been in the
Yeah.
trenches.
Yeah.
Joe didn't take you to the trenches. He's been in the ambulance. He's been in the hospital. He's been rolling around with PICC lines in his arm and stuff like that. But we
Mhm.
want you guys to know, like, we've been in this accumulative for about 40 years. 20
Yeah.
years
Been
or
crazy.
myself, 20 years for Joe. So when we come and we want to help the community heal, when we develop this,
Yeah.
when we're going to heal publicly, we did it because there's a lot of people in the Lyme community that do know us. There's a lot of people in
Hmm.
the chronic illness community that do know us, and there's people that have seen us make strides in getting our health back. I'm not 100%, but I'm definitely
No.
not where I've been. And Joe, he's not 100%, but we live pretty
Yeah.
full lives now, and it's
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we've chosen to do the work to stay consistent. And what we've started doing is helping people. And the people that you guys see when we talk are all people that have come through the class, that have gotten
Yeah.
better, that have gotten their lives back. And that's what we're trying to do, is spread hope that spurs you towards the belief that you can get better. So
Yeah. 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 I agree 100%. I think, so we don't go too much longer. I just kind of want to wrap everything up. Obviously, you know, here, the last 2 3 years, it's been tough at times, with
yeah,
the relapse, with the ups and downs of healing, and that's the one thing that we want to share is that, even myself, I've learned what it takes to heal. I've healed in the past, relapsed, healed, and I'm healing again. It's never easy. It's never just like, oh, I know what to do now. It should be easy. Some of this work is hard. It takes consistency. It takes, some dedication and going through the ups and downs. And this is where, for me, like, you know, a lot of what I've learned on the healing journey is not about, brain retraining. It's about these principles of psychology, of like learning how to accept and surrender things you cannot control, like learning how to let go of control and these things, learning how to be more present and in the moment and not stop stressing. Because, the thing that I will say is like a lot of what we think is going to heal us is not what's ultimately going to heal us. It's the things that we don't realize are healing us. It's the things that we don't partake in, that actually help us heal. So like for me, and we talk about it too often in our class, like I live a full life. Like I do whatever I want. I still deal with some symptoms from time to time, and some days it might be a little bit worse, but compared to where I was 2.5 years ago, it's not
Yeah.
even close. Like, I don't even think about an illness, like that anymore. My nervous system, for the most part, is calm and regulated, unless I go through some stress and I have to practice more self care,
Right.
and things like that. And I feel overall, better the majority of the time. Now, like I said, a lot of these things are not done by just, doing a few practices here and there. And it's not just, it's done. It's not, you don't heal by sitting in your home waiting to heal. And this is where I think, a lot of people get confused around mind body healing. Some of these programs, nervous system work, neuroplasticity, is like, let me just put in my DVD, or let me just log on to this app, do my thing, sit at home, wait till I feel better. And the thing that I will say, is that doesn't work. If you hear my journey and my story, all of my healing came when I got out of my comfort zone and started re-engaging back into life and didn't let my illness and the symptoms control me. That is more nervous system work than you realize. That is more neuroplasticity than you realize. Is showing your body safety through action, through exposure to new activities, to doing things that you find joy doing. Yes, it's great to do the visualizations and exercise and eat healthy, but you also need to not become sort of powerless on your healing journey and a victim to it, and become empowered and it use the chronic illness to create a life that you want to live, to do the things that you want to do. And that's where I think we're different, and that's where I think, my story, my journey is different, and why I didn't resonate with any of these other programs that are just sitting there telling you to, do your rounds and things like that, and then sit around. It's like, no, that's not what heals. That's what keeps you stuck, and that's that overwhelm and stress and feeling like, you got to heal and do this before you can do anything. And so that's where I want to kind of leave it. It's just, healing's a journey, guys, and like Josh said, it can be up and down, and it's going to be up and down. um but we all have the power within us to heal. It's not me and Josh that help heal people. It's not that program that helps heal you. It's your body's own ability to heal itself when you get out of the way. When you do the right things for your body, calm and regulate your nervous system, when you get out of the way, when you connect back to yourself, to your the things that you want to do, the things that bring you joy, all of that stuff, the body just naturally knows how to heal. It's not magic. It's truthful. It's not woo woo. It is
Right.
science, but it is also just naturally how we're built, and how
Yep.
the body works.
Yep.
And you're no different than me. If you guys like, I didn't go too in depth and detail on my journey, but like I said, if you wanna read more here, um, here's my book. It's all in my head. You can find it on Amazon. This is basically the book chronicles from like 2004, 2005 till about 2018. Obviously, it's not doesn't have the most recent, thing, but that can go, more in detail of like my journey and where I went. But it ends with a very hopeful message. It ends again with me, basically healing, twice in that book, and overcoming all this stuff. And I have some tips at the end of like the things that really helped me heal. I would change a little bit now, knowing more what I know, but it's still a great starting point. And yeah, and it's not rocket science. It's hard work, guys. It is hard work because we're going against everything that we want to do. Stay in bed, stay on the couch, eat those Cheetos. Don't move your body. Don't take action and goals in life. Like you're going against that. You're going against the comfort zone. What?
No, I was just going to say people staying stuck, and you
Yeah.
know, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Like our stories are long. Like Joe, we could probably talk for 3 hours
Yeah, I could go on for
about our
for
stories.
so long on this.
I go in like, there's no breaks in my. It is just it's long. But
Yep.
the biggest thing, guys, is we want to spread hope. So right now, If Joe's story inspired you guys, obviously we do these YouTube videos. We doing a lot of work, and we don't do this to get rich. So we
Yep.
have our no BS guide, which basically is all the things that we're doing that are getting people better, and everything else that everybody else is doing. It's $44. It's dirt cheap. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you're going to go spend $44 on
On
nonsense.
gas.
Yeah, gas for nonsense. So you
Yeah.
grab the guide, and here's the cool part: is we're giving away 1 month of our Mind Body Boot Camp for free, like absolutely free. You come
Yep.
in, you get an accountability partner, you become a part of the community. Joe and I do live Zooms twice a week. We answer
Yep.
questions, we share healing stories, and you get everything. Like you could leave in a month with everything that you need to heal if you do the work. The community is imperative. So the link to our website for that is going to be down below. It's exclusive
Yep.
to, just anybody that's dealing with chronic illness. I feel like it will help all of you guys.
Yep.
We're not going to keep the offer around for a lot because we're giving
No, it's probably not going to last for too much longer. So,
for very little. So if you are
yeah.
interested on it, the link will be down below. Also in the link, if you'd like to hop on the phone with Joe and I, we do 15-minute free consults to kind of talk about what it is we do. And in the grand scheme of things, if you don't want the guide, you just want to sign up for mine, it's $111, guys. We try to do this as cheap as possible.
Mm.
Most of us in the Lyme community have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we've
Yep.
seen people come in 3 months and their life's completely changed and they're going back. So we appreciate you sharing your story, Joe. If you're out there and you're struggling, know that you are not the anomaly, that you are
Yep.
not a rare case, that you can absolutely get better. I'm excited to share my story because I used to believe that I was one of the rarest cases
Yeah.
ever. And I was really sick, but I'm making so much progress now, and I've seen so many people make progress. So we appreciate you guys watching.
Yeah.
All the
Appreciate
information
it.
down there below. Guys, you can absolutely get better. Don't lose hope. Don't listen to the naysayers and the limey groups. I hate even
Yeah.
using that term. Get out of them. Focus on people that are healing. Be consistent. And you guys can get your life back.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys joining.